Today's video is all about Metal blockchain, blockchain for banking, BSA ready, layer 0 blockchain infrastructure for financial institutions. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And of course, the question is Metal blockchain an opportunity? Guys, today we're doing a deep dive. We're going to be looking into some of the fundamentals, all the little details that should make us bullish. Obviously, we'll be taking a retail perspective as per usual. What I mean by that is we're going to be looking at all the little details that would make a retail investor absolutely comfortable in accumulating some coins, some tokens within the ecosystem, and ultimately looking at those details from a very critical perspective. We're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, of course. We're going to use all the primary information that we could collect from the team, and obviously anything from secondary resources that could be of any use. All right, guys, so let's begin. We'll use the website as our main platform to navigate, to begin the research. As you can see, very clean and institutional-like feel. We get a skyscraper, a lot of glass, metal type of thing. That's a very typical scenario. Then we move down and we see a lot of these logos, banking partners and program members. They got a lot of little logos, Federal, Sound Credit Unions, Directions Credit Union. We got lots of different credit unions, and so on. And this gives you that institutional look. As you can see, we have vendors, Clover, Temenos, a very institutional type of feel right here. What is Metal blockchain? Metal blockchain is a layer 0 solution. We're going to talk about that in a second. Designed for financial institutions and fintechs, which is very important. That is that last statement, financial institutions and fintechs, that is critical. Built with BSA compliance, digital identity, and private subnet architecture for secure, tailored financial innovations. Private, compliant, secure, very important. Another topic or another concept that needs to be kind of put together. Private, compliant, secure, plus the fact that it's institutional and for fintech should give you a little bit of a picture here, and you should be able to kind of like understand where their core focus is going to be as a software solution. Private blockchain, digital identities, as you can see, of course, have to be private, and the blockchains be private because, again, maybe you may not want to make the ledger completely open so that everybody can see, because you have that layer of privacy with regarding the transactions. And then on-chain data, Metal boosts auditing and compliance performance, providing swift, secure access to all kinds of documentation. And they are currently meeting. So I don't know if they're officially given the declaration of being an ISO 20022 standard, but the reality is that it is meeting those standards and enhancing efficiency for banking institutions. So this is what I'm trying to say here, is we're getting into an institutional type of feel, type of project. We think of the XRPs, the quants, and the many others that are within this type of compliancy ISO type of narrative. Now, there are ISO compliant or projects that meet the standard, but they have options for open and private. Now, Metal blockchain is one of them that offers that kind of concept. But you can clearly see, based on what it's offering here on the website, its feel, its nature, and not only that, even its token explorer, coin explorer, you're seeing that it is going to be very, very private. Now, guys, again, we're going to be touching upon all these little things. I'm going to be showing you some of we'll look at the explorer and so on. Not a typical one, but we'll talk about that. And obviously, guys, we're going to have to come to some sort of conclusion. Where is the value proposition at? So no compromises on speed or security, but you are compromising other things. And again, I'm not trying to compare. I know this table here is trying to compare to other projects. And fair enough. We can compare. Metal blockchain has, transactional throughput. Apparently it's infinite, TPS with subnets. So this concept of subnets, guys, right now you should be thinking, what does that mean? Does that sound familiar? Well, it should. If you're doing your homework here in this space, well, you should be thinking Avalanche, AVAX, okay? You have Bitcoin 7 TPS, where this thing is, pretty much infinite apparently, and you can compare it to other blockchains. We're talking about big L1s, right? What we're talking about here. And maybe Polkadot being somewhat of a layer zero as well with their parachains and such, okay? Transactional finality, again, speedy, speedy, speedy. It's not fair to even have Bitcoin here. Bitcoin is not meant for this purpose, for transactional speed and microtransactions and all of that. To be honest, Ethereum is not even there, but maybe we see Ethereum get into that realm very soon as it might scale. But if it doesn't, that's what the layer twos are for, and so on. So it's not even there. And Polkadot, honestly, I have nothing to say about Polkadot. Let's just leave that alone. Energy efficient, yes, of course. A CPU optimal, okay, that's pretty cool. But again, yeah, that's fine. Safety threshold, um, okay. I think what they're trying to say is here from a safety threshold perspective, 80%. I don't even know what this means. Yeah, at the end of the day, this is what. Hmm. So ultimately, the reality is when you're comparing it to different projects, guys, there are some things to consider, which is the speed and all that good stuff, and the efficiency. What else do we have here? We have join our banking innovation program. Ultimately, that's pretty good because what we know of it so far is that it wants to get into this banking sector, extensible blockchain architecture, XPR. So right away, again, A chain, C chain, P chain, and the exchange chain, the X chain. Guys, this is basically Avalanche architecture. So they are built using the Avalanche architecture. So that's something that we have to understand. Okay, so quite interesting. And then we'll make some conclusions in a second. Become a validator, become a delegator, stake metal, earn variable rewards. Okay, this is where you get the staking and rewards, but is it a DAO? Is there governance? At that point, there is none at this point. So I'm not sure where that gets introduced or not, if it's meant to be a centralized type of blockchain software solution, harnessing all the benefits from the blockchain and crypto, um, you know, tech stacks that, and architectures, but leaving out the decentralization of the organization itself, and that's fine, guys. At the end of the day, not all organizations need to be completely decentralized. So something to be considered about. There's some great projects out there that say, hey, we don't have a DAO. The team, does this. We use blockchain technology for this purpose. And ultimately, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, then too bad, type of thing, right? And then that's where you kind of say, well, is the team strong? Does it have a good, tech stack? Are there any good partnerships? There's other aspects, of different blockchains. Not all blockchains need to be 100% decentralized, type of thing, and take on that Web3 persona. Powerful use cases, marketplaces, escrow services. As you can see, a lot of traditional financial products and services here, depth financing and reward programs and so on. Latest news, their blog can keep you covered with that, and we're gonna scroll through that later. Featured in Forbes, Fortune, guys. I really don't care for these whatsoever. Okay, these are useless to me. They're good for promotion and marketing, but they don't affiliate anything. Metal does not affiliate with Forbes. A lot of the features that you get on these publications are paid for anyway, so I really don't care about those. They have a couple of socials and their footers, and we got to talk about this metal alicious scenario because that is where the team lies. That's their organization. You have some press, news. As I said, their explorer. We'll talk about that in a second. Their white paper. We'll talk about it in a second. Various documentation, which is okay. They got some socials. Their Discord, guys, is Yeah, it's not the greatest, to be honest. Lots of scammers, lots of craziness in there. Telegram is there, but it's interesting. Yeah, of course, it's well developed. There's a lot happening there. Um, but their Discord is full of scammers. It's crazy. But they need a little bit of that social presence. I would suggest that even if they are taking this approach, where they're looking at institutional mindshare, right? What they should do is forget Discord and forget, honestly, even forget Telegram at this point, because this doesn't represent fintech or this type of feel. Most projects that are within this, that want to get into the compliance type of, full, regulation type of thing, don't have these type of, degen outlets such as the other projects do. Okay, so I don't know. At the end of the day, maybe, maybe not. It's up to, obviously, the type of clientele, the type of persona that they're trying to, project. All right, guys, let's see what else we got here. We can see that there's a docs page, which is actually pretty cool. They got a lot of things happening here. Launch your own dApp, build your first subnet, learn about Metal, become a validator. So there's a lot of references and resources here, which are good. So this is, about getting started. What is it? Now they have a Git book style. Let me just make this dark so it's easier on our eyes. Ultimately it's cool. It's, I like this, but this is so underdeveloped. This is not like, this is nowhere near. I've been doing a lot of deep dives, guys, as you may know. I'm at over 140 deep dives over the last couple of years, and ultimately, I've never seen a project, use Gitbook or this style. Is it a Gitbook? Is it driven by Gitbook? I don't know if it is. I see a GitHub logo. I don't know. It looks like a Gitbook, but regardless, I never seen this style of documentation page be so underutilized. And I think this is a great way to actually project information rather than a typical white paper. So what we'll do is I'm gonna just show you their white paper. This is a typical white paper. It's a document PDF type of scenario. You could read this, lots of writing, lots of writing, lots of writing, and you're going to lose a lot of people by having this. Okay, you're going to lose a lot of people just writing in. Have it, it's fine, but you should be synthesizing this that is into something retail friendly. Okay, so that's important. Now, if you go through all of it, it's cool. This is documents cool. The most important is right here, the subnet architecture. Okay, because this is very important. Now, what I want to do is see right here, because they have a lot of it duplicated right on here, which for me it means that this is pretty effortless. They didn't put any effort on this. As you can see, you have the architecture right here. What is a Metal platform? So basically, it is EVM compatible. There's a lot of different. There's WebAssembly compatible, making it easier for developers to actually develop on the chain, which is obviously a great thing, so that you don't have that friction and so on and so forth. So they have a recovery protocol, which again starts to become centralized. Recovery protocols don't happen in completely decentralized open platforms. You lose your keys, you lose your private keys, you're done. That's how it works. Now, in order for them to recover your private keys, you got to ask yourself this: what do you need to provide? Right? You to reset your users' keys. That's a little bit funky. So KYC, know your customer, all that kind of thing. So privacy out the window in that case, if you want to keep yourself private. So the compliancy of ISO 222 is literally gonna have such implementations where KYC is necessary and so much more. So this has to be expected when you're trying to be compliant for, that at that level, and get regulated at that level. You're gonna have to KYC and provide all kinds of personal information. Okay, so just consider that, which is totally fine. You gotta be real. That's totally fine if you're okay with that. Now, the Metal platform is quite interesting because Metal features 4 built-in blockchains. And this is exactly the way the Avalanche, architecture works. XRP network, A chain, exchange chain X, platform chain P, P chain, and contract chain C chain. All 4 blocks are validated, secure by Metal validators, which also, referred as the primary network. Now, again, this is literally seems to be a copy paste of AVAX, right? And obviously, they're going to put a layer on top of this that is for compliance. They're going to tweak everything that they have here because, AVAX, you can make your own subnets and so on. The architecture is there. It is an open architecture, right? So, in this case, they were able to take that architecture pretty much and make it so that it fits the compliancy that is required for their focus, again, for institutional bankers and so on and so forth. So you got each chain doing a specific job. And again, I would highly recommend that you look into this, because it starts to become a modular network, a modular tech stack. Whereas, as if you're developing something, you don't have to have or implement or use all chains per se, right? You can develop based on what you need, based on this modular approach. Each layer has its own functionality, its own purpose, and that's basically what modularity means, right? Having different portions, parts of one big picture that can be used and moved and augmented, especially in this case, how it's augmented. The AVAX stack. This is basically a good example of how we start to see customization. Contract chain, again, all of these guys, I would definitely look into it. Read through it, do your thing. I'm not going to read to you, but I'm going to tell you that this is the case. Okay. What else do we have? We have the token. They have a burning, right? So transactions fee in metal, transaction fee is burned. So they have a burning mechanism for those of you looking into tokenomics. They have the fee schedule. Transaction fees on the blockchain vary dependent on type of transaction being performed. And those fees are what cause the actual chain to become profitable. From a tokenomic perspective, a little bit more would be here to organize this, a pie chart or something, like just to shove all kinds of words here like it's a white paper doesn't do it for me. So communications, marketing, where are you? Like, this is your moment. I like even the name, the metal blockchain, the website. I thought it was going to be looking different. I thought it was going to be a completely different project. This is my first time actually doing research. I did this for 3 days, guys. And when I saw metal, I heard of metal, I saw their logo. I thought it was going to be actually something with a little bit of appeal, bit of sex appeal there, like something a little bit more flashy, more retail oriented. Instead, it's quite the opposite. So there's a bit of a disconnect, in my opinion, from the marketing, from the product positioning. And again, I've been in this industry long enough to know, this type of communication. And the reality is, I feel there's a bit of a disconnect. When we started off in this space, we had none of this. Basically, we only had Bitcoin, and there was no reason to have to worry about communication. Because if you only have one product offering in a market, there's nothing to communicate other than what Bitcoin is, right? As soon as you start to have other blockchains, you have to have a point of differentiation. And that's where communication becomes very, very important. So, what is the difference between Metal and every other L1? And from if you want to communicate your tokenomics being good, this is a very poor way to do that. It's a very poor way to communicate anything, right? To be honest, visuals are very important. Graphics, graphs, infographics is what guys. We're in 2026. Metal has a hard capped, which is great. This is ugly numbers. This is, I don't know whose decision this was or how they came up with this. That should not be. These numbers like this don't market very well. The distribution of metal is as follows, like all these sixes. And then so that basically it's capped. You can't get more than that. If they should have done it a billion and capped it there, or even 500 million would have been fine. Something round, something easy to use mathematically, visually. This looks like a mess. Metal Foundation holds this amount, and the founders hold this amount. So we're slowly reducing percentage wise, which again should have been provided here in a nice graphic. Metal conversion. So the obviously at one point they didn't have their main L1, so this is a migration essentially. So they migrated over to their own stack. So there is a bit of history, but I'm not going to get into that. Ultimately, history is history. Now they're fresh and new. They got a whole new thing going on. The founders were granted 71 million medals vested over 12 months. So you do have your vesting schedule, which is nice. The Metal Foundation received this many, 153 million medals to fund development and accelerate growth for the network, which means that you got to trust the foundation. They're not behind a DAO. You're not going to be able to vote. You're not going to be able to do anything. No matter how many tokens you have locked up in the nodes or whatever, you're not going to vote on anything. Your voice has zero value. Okay, so that's fine, because if the team is strong, that's what you want. It's fine. The team is strong. You don't want people voting and make it a democracy. You want the team to go and spearhead this because they're champions, right? So we'll talk about the team. During the conversation event, when the conversion event, when Metal blockchain launched, MTL community members had the opportunity to convert their Metal DAO tokens to Metal coins. So at one point, it was a DAO where people could vote, and now it's not the case. With a maximum of 60 million Metal, so you can see there's a bit of a history. The staking reward emissions is designed to release X amount, 333 million metals on a sliding scale. More specifics below. Okay, so this is what happens. You stake, you get rewarded. Right now, that's the only way you're going to see tokens get emitted. That's it. The rest of them are through vesting schedule, and obviously those are already out there. They're just in multi-sigs or in some wallet, and they're going to slowly be released. And these guys right here are basically being created, or in this case, being issued through rewards. That's it. You're going to stake, you're going to get some rewards. Okay, that's the only way at the current moment we're going to reach max supply here. And remember, there's a burning mechanism that's also going to make the max supply kind of depreciate over time. So that's the deflationary, guys. Deflationary mechanisms based on burning mechanisms are ideal. Now, can more tokens be issued in the future? I don't know. The reality does the foundation have that privilege, that option to mint more and to add to the max supply? I doubt it, because there's definitely saying it's max hard capped, so there's no more being issued. The only thing that will shrink is the total supply. Okay, so to understand, the total supply could shrink, but the max that was minted is always going to be max, no more than that, right? So the bigger question is, can total decrease but also increase? As long as it doesn't increase above max, right? That this is again, when you're in a very non-decentralized infrastructure that's not governed openly, that you have to trust the team. There's a lot of things that happen in the background that are not going to be available to the average investor, right? Like an open platform. Okay, so it is what it is. That concludes tokenomics. And blockchain consensus. Blockchain consensus is the task of getting a group of computers to come to agreement. We know what a consensus is. So basically, it performs well. The 51% attacks, obviously, they're going to have their own thing to make sure that doesn't happen. And you can see they have Snowball, blockchain, Avalanche consensus. That's what they borrow from Avalanche. So the intuition above outlines the snowball algorithm, which is built by a building block of Avalanche consensus. So you can see that they're actually using the snowball, and they might be the snowman and all these other things that Avalanche has. They have a DAG, or direct. A lot of these have DAGs, so you got parallel processing, which is great. So you get that speed and scalability. I'm trying to go through this as a working example. Okay, we don't need examples. We know what parallel processing. Instead of processing blocks linearly, like on a chain, you process them sequentially, like on a grid per se. That sequential doesn't matter. You basically can go sideways and parallel process at the same time, so you get that finality speed that we all need, that we all are looking for. You got different validators, big ideas, loose ends. Again, guys, you're gonna have to take this to the next level with your research. Again, I can't get into too much depth because this deep dive will be hours long. But again, you can see that they do offer it, and they do have some graphics here to help you visualize and all of that. So this is pretty good. All right, guys. Again, this was the white paper. They have this. You can go in and read your heart's content. Ultimately, there's a lot of information here, so good for them. What else do we have here? This is their validate. This is their explorer, right? Their blockchain explorer. There's not much here. This is not a typical explorer that I'm used to looking at on open blockchains, right? When you think about it, would an institution want their transactions to be open to the public? No, they won't. And this is what they offer. They offer this service: institutional grade privacy and software solutions, blockchain software solutions. So you're not going to get what you get on Etherscan or anything like that. Absolutely not. Okay, so we got to move on. We got to accept, move on. That's the name of the game. Some news and insights. We do have, Bitcoin virtual machine on the blockchain. Okay, that's pretty good. Like, you're going to see a lot of this. Cornerstone League, and Metalicious partner to bring a stablecoin innovation. That's a hot narrative. Stablecoins. Their ecosystem is small, guys. They don't have anything going. And even if they do, they can choose for it to be private. They don't have to, basically say, "Oh, we got this project or this team or that happening." It could be set to private. Like, you don't have to know everything, and that's the reality about these type of type of projects, right? Um, a metal blockchain. This is great. Credit union, amazing. These are good little partnerships. Credit unions, Bay Federal, amazing. Look at this. Excite. Lots of little Fed Now services. Look at this. U.S. payments advancing. Look, guys, there's a lot. 10 out of 10 for relationships. Not partnerships, because I wouldn't classify these as partners. They don't need a partner. They're no one. It's likely that they need. I wonder what their DPIN protocol is going to look like when they decide to have applications that are decentralized. If they're going to even go that route, they might just say, what, we provide ledger solutions and that's it for transactions and that's it. Everything else, too bad. Yeah, it could be the case. It's not. Maybe not. We'll see where that goes. But you can see there's a lot here. Even this dude, he's part of the team, so I don't even advisory council, so that's fine. And lots, guys, in power, small, and some of them are pretty big. Never mind, because financial institutions, they show their size by their balance sheet, not necessarily their logo or their brand equity. Like Rarible, we here in the blockchain space, we will say, "Oh, that's good, that's big," but meanwhile, we just scrolled over some big institutions, right? This is probably good. ISO 2022 compatibility. The Meta blockchain has achieved a significant advancement in the realm of financial technology by attaining an ISO 222 compatibility. This significant achievement. Now, I don't know if it was actually, did they have that seal of approval? Did they get it like some other blockchains, or is they just themselves realize that they met all those standards, right? So I'm not really getting that clear message that, hey, they received that seal, and I don't see it down here, because if they did, I would say, yeah, let's get that going, because there are some blockchains that are like that. They themselves know that they've met the requirements, but no one's out there to say, yes, I agree, and they get the seal of approval, like an organization would. Okay, so this looks great, guys. To be honest, this project is quite interesting, even from a packaging perspective. It's great. You just need a little bit better communications. And I know their communications not retail. But you still have retail investors that want to invest and become part of these types of institutions, because that's what they're looking like right now as an institution. Okay. Remember, guys, I'm going to have the summary of all of this towards the end, the infographic, all that good stuff towards the end of the video. So stay tuned. Let's take a look at their socials real quick. Very small. We have 15,000 followers, guys. This is a baby cap. Okay, this small project, small community. It doesn't have that. You know what? To be honest, their actual marketing is quite nice. The metal blockchain, the idea, the look, the coloring, everything. The fact that that says metal for some reason means strong. I like the whole idea, but then you start to see that it's ISO. It kind of bothers me, and it doesn't really match. It doesn't really match institution for me mentally, but it doesn't matter because it's what the general market feels. So let's see what happens here. Remaining Bitcoin's model for proof of stake era. Um, uh, yeah, so they're reimagining what Bitcoin can actually do for this ISO narrative that they have going on. Wallet for Metal blockchain. They got their own wallet. Okay. Federal Reserve Financial Services, Fed Now. Expands federal. Okay. And yeah, San Francisco. Let's see, leading provider of digital banking and blockchain infrastructure for credit unions. Yeah, they do have a lot. It's true. What else do they have here? Pulse VM released this initial release lays the groundwork for A chain. So again, their chains, initial release, custom blockchains, financial institutions, and so on. So they got lots of good stuff here on those socials. And from a partner perspective, I think, like, they don't even announce many partners. Like, I don't see many announcements. So I literally searched, partnerships and so on, and I got a few here and from 2023. So the fact that I don't have anything from 2025, 2026 means that they're not communicating properly. It should be searchable. You got to think SEO. Like, it should be searchable, because that means if it's not searchable, the algorithm is not picking it up. And it should be, partnerships should be loud, they should be available. And the only partnership feed or result that I got was this here on X. That's a problem. That's a communication, that's a marketing issue. Okay, so they and from 2023. That's bad. That's the only one. That's the only announcement you got. It's not true. They have more, but we'll talk about it in a second. But it is what it is. Now, um, we got this. We got fintech and exchange integration, payments acceptance integration, exchange kickoff. They got Rarible partnership focusing on marketplaces. We know what those is, and a few more. And obviously, a lot little institutions along the way. They got their compliance, like we mentioned, and so on. Their wallet and XPR network contracts and so on. So they got some stuff there, and that's about it. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what's going on here. No, let's see what we got here. This is, yeah, this is the actual, switch this over for a sec so I can make it clean and clear. Where's their blog? I wanted to see their blog. News and Insights right here. We'll take a look at that. That's that. So from the News and Insights scenario, they got all of this, guys. And these are not all old. Some of them are newer. Some of the, okay, fine. But because they're not making noise on their X about some of this, it means that, like, what are they, stagnant? Like, how old are these? Like, I would like to know, like, when did these happen? They seem old now as I'm looking at them. They look like they don't even want to put the date. Like, we're talking about 2024 October. Like, okay, we're in 2026, guys. 2 years of nothing. Like, you gotta have something going on here. Even if it's a year and a half of nothing, you gotta have something. So you gotta put dates so you get people excited, and you gotta get on socials, or unless nothing is really happening, which is not a good sign. Either way. Okay, so I'm not going to dig. We shouldn't have to be private investigators. Marketing needs to be out there, no friction. Communication is key here, guys. So, yeah, this is my background, guys. This is what I do anyway. So, Metalicious is the team itself. It's a sub-organization, right? So we have, obviously, we got the Metal blockchain, but who created the Metal blockchain? It's Metalicious. Okay, so banking on the blockchain, building the world's most customer-centric digital asset bank network using blockchain technology. And you can see they got a lot of this happening. Our products, they have all of this. Metal Pay, Metal Pay, Metal L2, Metal Dollars, the Metal blockchain. We got a few SKUs under this mother company, right? Metal Dollar and so on. Okay, and who are these people? Well, they're these dudes right here, these people. We got Marshall and Glenn, Irina and Karen, and much more, obviously. Various walks of life in different aspects of experience. We'll talk about more of that in a second. You can see once you get on the Metal blockchain, you don't really get much because when you're on the Metal blockchain, like there's no there's no members or anything like that, which is unfortunate. And at that point, I was like, okay, so how do I do research on the team? Well, then, and that's when I found this, the metalicious.com. So there's a bit of a disconnect. That way, they separated themselves from the actual blockchain organization and the actual organization as them being developers, which is interesting, right? And I've seen this many, many times. Lots of projects do this. They're not the only ones, right? They kind of separate themselves from the blockchain, right? So if you kind of go on their actual Metalicious LinkedIn, this is where you get the people, right? 140 associates, big team, right? Big team. They're out of the States, mostly out of California, Santa Barbara, maybe, not really, but maybe California, yeah, type of area. It's a global, but India, some in India, United States is the majority, California, I don't know why they're separate, but you get what I mean. And these are the people right here. These are the main individuals, right? So let's see who they are. Let's get to know them a little bit. We have Glenn, which is the CTO. Okay, so the chief tech officer and co-founder of Metal. So he's right up in there. I would say that he would probably be the go-to regarding the tech. Co-founder, as you can see, full stack developer, internship, e-commerce consultant, IT consultant, IT, education. We have bachelor of computer science, and I'm not sure, more computer science, and a few licenses of Oracle and Microsoft. So it is what it is. He is the tech dude. Okay, that's where we're at with that. Seems to be skilled. And then we got Sandeep. Let's see, fintech. That's it. Looks like his passion, his background. Chief Executive Officer of Subverse AI, Tech, Arizona Technology Council, Forbes Technology Council. official member. So he's a member of a council. Look, I don't care about member of council. I want to see action. Where are you at? Are you retired? Like, or what's going on? Executive in residence, vice president, chief. Okay, this is where he starts to get active. Uh, Rev Tech. Yeah, this guy's definitely labs fintech. This is where he's at. So his experience is deep into fintech. Yeah, tech officer, founder, and CEO, Alpha Strats, Bank of America. No, this guy's it. So, although it seems like he might be in his later parts of the career, which usually where you start to get parts of councils and stuff, because you obviously have doors to open and you have experience, so you're just kind of counseling people, which is fine, right? The brains of the operation mean a lot, and it seems like he's one of the brains of the operation when it comes to fintech. Very, very powerful stuff here. This is good. Okay, so he's cooled off in his career, but he's definitely providing that alpha to the team. Karen, she is VP of product, an individual that has tons of experience as well. Polynex, we know what that is, director of product management. And we have senior product manager at Circle. We got TripAdvisor, um, Internet Watch Foundation. So you start to see some good tech backgrounds from product perspective, financial products. Sorry, uh, software products as a software solution. This is very very good. And this is great. Good experience there. And then Marshall, he looks like he is the face. He's the CEO and co-founder of Metalicious, and he's the board member of Dogecoin Foundation. Interesting. So be the degen right there. Young dude, seems to be very young. Okay, so which is great. So a bit of youth, a bit of strength there. And building the world's most customer-centric digital bank. Okay, for he's right here, the board member. Fine, chief marketing officer of Block.io. Okay, Bitcoin Fair and community at Stellar Development. So it seems like he is a marketing guy. Okay, a communications marketing guy. Marshall is both extraordinary entrepreneur and a powerful human being. I have had the honor to work with alongside him and his great team for the past few years. Cool stuff. This is nice. These are nice to see from individuals, right? So it seems like his experience is there based on community. Founder of Block AI, acquired pretty good. Stellar. So he's definitely in it. It looks like he started off here into this space, which is great, and he's in it as an entrepreneur, as a marketing, and obviously he knows his infrastructure, which is great. Okay, good stuff. Lots of talent, lots of talent. But what I'm missing, to be honest, from the team is a little bit more blockchain specific experience. Like, did any of these devs come from the Ethereum Foundation? I'm talking this way because there are projects that are like that. They're spin-offs, or a team member leaves and comes up with their own thing. I know non-disclosures, this and that, but at the end of the day, you have more depth into the blockchain experience and development and so on, architecture and so on. I'm not really getting the full bang, the full picture. Okay, but still doesn't mean anything, guys. Ultimately, you speculate. There's some definitely some talent here. The team is huge, so we're just looking at the top tier guys, or the frontier of the team. But what about the other 100 plus individuals that are there that are talented and maybe do have experience in other blockchains and architectures? So again, doing research obviously requires more time, and so, but I gave you a great starting point to continue your research. Okay, so that's that. And generally speaking, guys, we got to understand that, and what I've definitely taken from Metal is that Metal seems to be almost like a a bit of a duplicate of Avalanche. Okay, because it was created using Avalanche structure, but at the same time, its augmentation was for compliancy, to be compliant, and the ISO narrative. Okay, so that for me is interesting. So think of it as AVAX, but at the same time focusing on a different value proposition, which is great, which is fine, totally acceptable. All right, guys. Let's take. You guys know that I have those infographics for you guys. I release those infographics all over the socials. They're high quality, so that means that you can zoom in and be able to get all the little details on the infographic. So let's begin. Let's see what we have here. and then we'll talk about charts because I know you want to talk about price action. We'll do that right after this. Now, from an ecosystem perspective, okay, it's a very small ecosystem. I don't see much happening there, right? They got an L1, and all L1s have this problem. At the beginning, there's no applications, but there's a little bit of an issue here, right? Because they're not necessarily a public blockchain, and if they are working with institutions that want to remain private, we would never know. We would never know. So their ecosystem might be huge. Well, we will never know. We got a lot of logos from all those different, unions, credit unions, and so on. But at the end of the day, I don't know the extent of the relationships, and maybe we're not meant to know that. All we really need to know is on-chain metrics, and that's it, or not even because it's a private blockchain, and we won't even see that. So revenue stream, maybe revenue balance sheet. So it becomes a typical business like you would invest in on the stock market. The only data really you have is the data that the team and the project wants to forfeit, and usually it's typical business information like revenue, and that's the bottom line, really, literally. So if they're making money, maybe that's a company you want to be involved in. That's so to speak. So their ecosystem, from in my opinion, when I look at there's nothing there that I can verify and that they're doing well in the revenue stream or anything. There's nothing there. Public crypto native dApps are limited, although apparently they have that possibility to become a public crypto and have some a native dApps, to be honest, applications that are created even by the team, or applications that are not created by the team and that are third party, but they're public, meaning open ledger, open, like like AVAX would be, and it's not the case. So it's almost like if you leave us out in the dark, to a degree, we're gonna have no evidence, and then we have no choice but to say, hey, maybe the glass is half empty, and that's why I look at it from an ecosystem perspective. There's nothing there. Utility, 9 out of 10. And the reason why I say that, because once again, it is a utility project. Ecosystem growth is not defined the same way you define it on an open ledger, perhaps, and as explained previously. But the transaction fees are there; they get to burn, so deflationary. Staking and validator participation, they get rewarded. Subnet operations, obviously that's part of the utility. You're going to be able to use the coin in order to operate the subnets, and network security, obviously for the validators. And a typical, and it's not just about open or closed blockchains and things like that. No roadmap per se. Everything can be insinuated from their socials, which I don't like to do. You tell me what you want me to know and where you guys are going, and I will be happy to believe you. Right. And a DAO would give us a little bit more, strength there, like some sort of proposal system, and a system where people can vote on the different proposals and so on. And then you have the team member communicating the roadmap based on all the proposals that passed and so on and so forth. But this is not the case. It's not the case. No roadmap for Metal blockchain does not publish a traditional forward-looking roadmap with dates or anything, or any milestones. Every milestone that they put forward, though, has been met, which is a great track record, no doubt. But when you're looking at for a roadmap, you want to know where you're going, not where you came from, right? So it is what it is. You want me to be bullish and speculate on the future? Give me an idea of where you're pushing, where you're putting your human capital and actual your efforts. That's what I need to know. The team is good. It's a large team, 140 associates, fintech experience, blockchain engineering, leadership, product development. A lot happening here. They're doxed, which is great, and for compliance purposes, that is a necessity. So that there's benefits here, right? There's benefits here of being a compliant project because you get that sense of security, right? And but then again, you pull away from that democratic, feel that you usually get from an open blockchain. It's all up to you. Diversifying your portfolio is definitely fine. You can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You don't have to choose a side. They all have benefits, right? So you got to just focus on the value propositions and assess it based on that, right? You don't have to be so one-sided, right? Their socials are okay. It's still a small community on X. It's very small. In fact, I expected much bigger. Their Discord is full of scammers and unmanned. That's unacceptable. You might as well close it down. because what you're doing is your people are going in there that are interested in your project, and they're getting they potentially can get scammed, and that's not right. I know it's a Discord problem too. It's a Telegram problem too. It's a all kinds of problems. The scammers are everywhere, guys. It's not Metal's fault per se, but close the forum down if you're not going to have a community manager that's going to man it 24 hours a day. You need that. It's a requirement, to make a healthy space, right? Telegram is well established and has activity, so I appreciated that. Their socials, their blog, okay, is there. It's active. No dates or times either. Maybe to protect themselves so that it doesn't look dead and stagnant. Their communications from a social perspective, it needs improvement. Their Git book needs complete overhaul, a complete overhaul. That's not up to standard at the Web3 or even at the crypto level. Again, guys, 140 deep dives on my belt. I think I can tell you what I've seen in the past, and that is a poor effort in my opinion. So we can obviously have areas of improvement. It is what is it is, guys. I try to be very clear, and hopefully, you never know that sometimes the teams in the past have watched my deep dives and said, you know what, Mike, thank you, because you're right. Sometimes it's the hard truth, and I've just tried to I make these videos for the retailers, but ultimately the team can benefit from this. I was a dev in this industry for many years. I know what this is about. So, and from my marketing background and in my developer background, I try to share these ideas. Um, Tokenomics, pretty decent, pretty decent. You got to admit. So the reality is most of the tokens are out there already, so you're not risking dilution. I forget the percentage. I have it right here somewhere. Supply of max 76% of max is already out there, which is pretty good. It's not too bad. The rest of the tokens are going to be released via staking rewards, emissions over time, which is good. But you have to understand, staking rewards are actually good because technically what you're doing, you're taking tokens out of circulation, which means that ultimately there's that. It's not burning, you're not removing them, but you're kind of temporarily removing them from circulation, which means there's going to be a supply shock. So, and if you're going to do that, you should get rewarded, no? But that means there's going to be an emission. But then there's more incentive to take that emissions and restake it so you can earn more rewards. You see the flywheel effect? And it's brilliant. It's fine, especially at this level where they're at, where the majority of the tokens are already released and the founders are going to get their 12-month vesting, and the Metal Foundation, has their own little capital there that is obviously going to, support development and growth, and they're going to earn a little bit based on the fees and so on and so forth. So it's all good right here. However, guys, their communication regarding all of this is poor. Are they going to dare show us their wallet addresses? I doubt it. I doubt it. They're going to be quiet about it. They want full privacy. They're an institutional perspective, so I doubt it. But from their tokenomics perspective, they're okay. They're not greedy. Everything's fine. Relationships. There's lots of relationships, and I scrolled through many of them. I showed you them. There's lots of different credit unions and different, smaller, institutions, bigger institutions. There's a lot there. But from a relationship perspective, from the tech aspect, they're all historical, but still very powerful with regards to the relationships that they have. So ultimately, they got some exchanges, they got some payments, some partnerships with marketplaces like Rarible, but it's right now the relationships that they have with the institutions that they could be working with right now and creating software solutions for them. It could be the case. So I'm very interested in seeing that, continue and what happens there. I'm getting a very interesting vibe from Metal, and I'll explain that in a second. Exchanges only on Mexi and Gate. Unfortunately, you're not going to get all of those other. There's no Binance or anything like that right now, or Coinbase or anything. So we're kind of early here. Now, from its market cap perspective, it's only a it's only a $63 million market cap, guys. This is a micro cap. It is a baby cap. Okay, so we're talking about volatility. We're talking about craziness here with regards to volatility. So you got to accept that straight away. Okay. What else do we got here? Let's see. We have a little bit of a verdict. Obviously, my verdicts are not like um typical verdicts where I want to tell you, this is good, this is bad, whatever. I'm just going to talk about the general outcome of my experience here. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So it is a layer zero. And what that means is that technically L1s can be built on it. Okay, so a layer ones could be built on it. They could use their boilerplates, their stack, to issue L1s. And those L1s are going to belong to these institutions because institutions don't want tokens, they want their own blockchains. And these blockchains that Metal is going to produce for these institutions are going to be ones that are going to be easily defined by those institutions. So they're going to have their own Ethereums, their own, you get my point. They're going to have their own blockchains because Metal is a layer zero and they have a modular blockchain structure that allows them to use these structures as boilerplates to create L1s, similar to how AVAX uses their subnets. So the system uses Avalanche's family consensus, which is Avalanche plus Snowman, Snowballs, and all this, enabling high throughput and fast finality and their subnet architecture. So they have a very similar architecture, whereas, of course, they're going to have their X chain, their C chain, their P chain, and all these different chains that do various things. And obviously, in a modular approach, and they're able to design these L1s for these institutions in a modular way and make them custom for what they need, whether it be a private ledger, nobody can see it, only the organization. It's fine, right? It's fine, right? And that's definitely there. Metal conversion, they did migrate or convert into Metal, and when they launched their new chain, they 60 million were converted over. It is what it is. That's history. I don't want to take too much on that. And additional allocation of Metal, 120 million, was issued additionally in that case into the allocation to Metal. No DAO or governance. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And Explorer does not show wallet distribution or any details like a typical Explorer. So we got to understand it's just a shifted value proposition to what AVAX pretty much has. Metal with the market cap of AVAX, perfect, right? It's almost like their competitor, but not really. But yes, it is, right? If it could catch up, right? You're talking about a 60x. Let's be modest here. If it can go $5, that's crazy. We can get Metal to $5. That's amazing of a target. What is that? Even if it's a 50x, that's still insane. We're talking about a $60 million market cap project. It could do very, very well. Now, again, guys, this is a projection. This is not me saying that's going to go there. If the market cap of the total crypto space goes back to $4 trillion, what you got to ask yourself is this: how much capital could Metal attract from the total market cap? How many institutions are going to FOMO in and say, you know what, I want to use this technology? How many people like you and I are going to say, dang, they have that possibility to attract all these institutions? I want in. And that's what matters most. That's what a projection is. It's not, a fortune telling or trying to tell the future. It's just saying, look, AVAX was able to attract this amount of capital over its lifetime. If Metal can attract similar amount based on its similarities, maybe it could get to $5 eventually. Who knows when, but eventually, based on comparing apples with apples. I give them 7 out of 10, guys. It's a decent project, but still, 7 out of 10 is where it's at for me. I think they have a little bit of work to do, but they're doing a lot so far. Everything else checks out fairly well. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin. Let's see what's going on with the metal chart. Because obviously, guys, it's not just metals. The rest of the space has been looking pretty garbage. At the end of the day, guys, as we do come down, we do get opportunities. And the question is metal right now in a buying opportunity? Let's take a look at this in a bit more detail. So ultimately, like I said, is it an opportunity, guys? At this moment, I would say yes. If you've been patiently waiting, this is your chance. This is your moment. And if you look at the green arrow here, that's where I bought in. Okay, I watched this thing hesitate right around this area when it got on my radar. That's how it usually happens. It comes to your radar once it expands. And then you're like, okay, let me look into it. Everybody brings it to the table. Everybody's FOMOing. Everybody gets wrecked. We come right back down. And then that's where we start doing deep dives because we're now thinking, hey, is it time to buy? Well, I got my first little order right into here. That's where I bought my first position. Spot only, of course. It did well. Boom, straight up. But then guess what happened? Straight back down. Manipulation, I'm sorry, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Straight back down, back to another liquidity zone. And here we are. Now we're forming structure at the point of control. I would say that this is your next level to buy. This is where I should go now and buy a bit, right? To build my position. So what I'm saying, why I'm saying that is volume is ideal right here. Market participation is good, right? We're getting a bit of a node right here on the volume profile. We could even bring it down a little bit further if we wanted to. It would be safer to understand. But ultimately, guys, the risk you're taking going along right now or buying now is that it comes down to range lows more or less down here, right? Maybe it might even sweep and do one of these. That's bullish. This is where you go in harder, right? And then if we break out, this is where you take some profit. And then if we come back in, this is where you exit. You get what I mean? Like it all depends on where we're going. But the truth is here on the price action, we're still making lower lows and lower highs. We're still not a downtrend. Now, what is Synergy Signal saying, guys? If you want to know more about Synergy Signal, links are in the description. But Synergy Signal is not saying too much. We got expansion to the downside, expansion to the downside, expansion to the downside. Every time we expanded down, 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 we made lower lows and lower highs. And there's no sign of divergence, really. Momentum stuck in the chop zone for a good while here on the daily, right? Momentum is stagnant while price is falling. That's ugly, very ugly. Volume coming in, buy pressure coming in right here, and didn't even make a higher high. That's gross. That's really bad, right? So are the buyers basically hitting a wall of sellers right here? People are buying, 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 but sellers are strong. The limit orders of sells here are strong. So what we got to worry about is what happens when the bears come in and say, you know what, okay, I'm done. I'm trying. Bulls are done pushing. And the sellers absorbed, and then all of a sudden, boom, we start rolling over and distributing and more selling, and we come down for a lower low. So what you really got to do now is ask yourself, number one, big picture, where are we? We're here at this level. This order block right here is the most important, right in here. All of this from here to here. This is very, very important stuff. And you can even subtract a little bit because this is one area which defines this zone, and this is another area which defines this zone. So you got two little order blocks below with a little bit of an imbalance in between that could give you opportunity. Now, if we go straight to where we are right now and kind of make this real and maybe even scooch this you over a little bit. I don't even want to touch it, but you get my point right into here. We could literally hold support based on this node, based on this price action, and hold support and see signs of absorption where we start to make a higher high. We need to get back above here, right? We need to get back above this top. We need to fly through this imbalance. We need to make higher highs and higher lows eventually. We need this transitionary phase where we see divergences, we see momentum shifts, we see green expansions that are followed by market structure follow through. That is higher highs and higher lows. So the risk you're taking right now is you might get into a short-term trade that yes, you pop up like this and then maybe you come down again. But until you make a higher high and sustainably hold support and backtest and confirm and get the change of character and market structure, you're taking risks. You're taking a lot of risk. A nice rounded bottom that shows passive accumulation is what you really want to see here on the metal chart. Without that, you're taking risk and your trades should be lower time frame trades. Similar to what happened here. Buy in here, take profit here. Buy in. Okay, right now it's tough, but you get what I mean. If you can buy in range lows and it breaks out, take your profit here. Eventually, we will see this thing, do one of these. And when that happens, your spot bags are the ones that are going to help you. So what I would be doing, in my opinion, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I bought spot here. I'm going to buy spot in here. I'm just going to see if we get a bit of pullback, and then I'll buy spot in here. That way, my average entry becomes right into here. And if we come down again, I'll do it again. Usually, I do it in threes. 1, 2, 3. If we come down again, I'll do it again. My average entry will be right into here, and that will be it. Once I start to see market structure shift, and I get a higher high or a higher low, followed by the divergence and all the order flow, that's when I start to build bigger bags, maybe introduce a bit of leverage, and start getting aggressive for the reversal. Because as of now, guys, lower lows and lower highs until proven otherwise. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value in this deep dive, do the channel a massive favor, slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.